The man, whom we'll call Daniel, sat frozen on the attic floor, the journal trembling in his hands. The flickering glow of the old TV cast eerie shadows across the dusty rafters, the paused VHS tape showing his sleeping face from just last week. His heart pounded as he reread his mother's final words. He must never know who watches. The air in the attic felt thick, oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Daniel's first instinct was to call the police, but something stopped him. The journal hinted at a deeper truth, a purpose behind the tapes that went beyond his mother's obsession. He needed answers. He flipped through the journal again, searching for clues. The entries were meticulous, detailing his milestones, first steps, first words, first day of school. But as the years progressed, the tone shifted. His mother wrote of signs and destiny, cryptic references to a greater purpose she believed Daniel was meant to fulfill. The final entry, dated 5 years ago when she became bedridden, mentioned entrusting the project to someone named E. Who was E? Daniel racked his brain. His mother had few friends, and the caretaker, a quiet woman named Evelyn, had been the only constant presence in her final years. Evelyn had always been kind but distant, slipping in and out of the farmhouse with an almost ghostly presence. Could she be the one who continued the recordings? And why film him last week, long after his mother's death? He decided to search the farmhouse for more clues. Downstairs, the house was a time capsule, floral wallpaper peeling, his mother's old quilts draped over furniture, the faint smell of lavender lingering. He started in her bedroom, where medical equipment still stood like silent sentinels. Under the bed, he found a locked metal box. His hands shook as he pried it open with a screwdriver from the kitchen. Inside were more tapes, not VHS, but smaller, newer camcorder cassettes, unlabeled except for a single letter. His stomach churned. He didn't have a camcorder, but the attic TV had a USB port and an adapter for different formats. He grabbed the cassettes and headed back upstairs, the creaking floorboards amplifying the silence of the night. The first cassette loaded with a hiss. The footage was grainy, but it showed the farmhouse's exterior at dusk, the camera panning across the overgrown garden. Then a figure appeared, Daniel, arriving at the farmhouse 2 days ago to begin cleaning it out. The camera followed him through the windows, zooming in as he unpacked boxes in the living room. Whoever held the camera was close, just outside, unseen. Daniel's skin crawled. He hadn't noticed anyone watching. The next cassette was worse. It showed him sleeping in his city apartment months before his mother's death. The angle was high, likely from a corner of his bedroom ceiling. He lived alone. No one had access to his apartment. His breath hitched as he realized someone had been inside his home, planting cameras, watching him for years. The final cassette was different. It wasn't footage of him, but of Evelyn, sitting in the farmhouse's kitchen, speaking directly to the camera. Her face was gaunt, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and reverence. "If you're watching this, Daniel," she said, her voice low, "it means you found the tapes. Your mother, she saw something in you. Something I believe in, too. You're not ordinary. She knew it from the day you were born. I've done my part, kept her promise, but it's time for you to know the truth." The screen cut to black, then flickered to a new scene. A grainy, older video, not from the VHS tapes, but something older, almost like AITA film. It showed a young woman, his mother, decades ago, standing in a circle of candles in the attic. She was chanting softly, her hands raised, a strange symbol carved into the floorboards beneath her. The camera lingered on the symbol, a spiraling pattern that seemed to pulse with an unnatural light. Daniel stumbled back, knocking over a stack of boxes. The symbol was still there, faintly visible under layers of dust on the attic floor. His mother's journal mentioned a greater purpose. But this was something else. Was she part of some cult? Was Evelyn continuing her work, and why was he the focus? He grabbed his phone, ready to call the police, but a noise stopped him, a faint creak from downstairs. The farmhouse was miles from the nearest neighbor, and he hadn't heard a car approach. His pulse raced as he crept to the attic stairs, clutching the screwdriver. The creak came again, deliberate, like footsteps on the old wooden floor. "Daniel," a voice whispered from below, soft but clear. It was Evelyn's voice. But Evelyn had left town after his mother's funeral, or so he'd thought. He gripped the screwdriver tighter, his mind racing. The tapes, the journal, the symbol, they all pointed to something bigger, something he was meant to uncover. But first he had to face whoever, or whatever, was downstairs. Daniel's heart thundered in his chest as he stood at the top of the attic stairs, the screwdriver clutched like a lifeline. The whisper of his name, Evelyn's voice, unmistakable yet chilling, echoed in his mind. The farmhouse, cloaked in midnight silence, felt alive with menace. He glanced back at the TV, its screen now dark, the spiral symbol on the attic floor seeming to hum with a faint, unnatural energy. Confronting whoever was downstairs could be dangerous, but staying in the attic, surrounded by his mother's secrets, felt like being trapped in a puzzle with no exit. He needed answers, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the voice below was part of them. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, and crept down the stairs, each step creaking under his weight. The screwdriver felt inadequate, but it was all he had. The air grew colder as he descended, the lavender scent of the house now mixed with something metallic, like rust or blood. At the bottom of the stairs, he paused, listening. The creak came again from the kitchen. A faint glow flickered through the doorway, not the steady light of a bulb, but something softer, like candlelight. Daniel edged forward, keeping to the shadows of the hallway. His mother's quilts draped over furniture seemed to watch him, their patterns twisting in the dim light. He reached the kitchen doorway and peered inside. A single candle burned on the table, its flame casting long shadows across the room. Evelyn sat there, her back to him, her gray hair loose and tangled. She was still, too still, her hands folded in her lap. The air felt heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. "Evelyn," Daniel's voice cracked, barely above a whisper. She didn't move. He stepped closer, the floor groaning underfoot. "What are you doing here? Why are you watching me?" Slowly, her head turned, and Daniel froze. Her eyes were wrong, too wide, too bright, like they reflected light that wasn't there. "Daniel," she said, her voice soft but layered, as if another spoke through her. "You've seen the tapes, you've seen the truth." He tightened his grip on the screwdriver. "What truth? The tapes, the cameras, why? What was my mother doing?" Evelyn's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your mother knew you were special, chosen. The signs were clear from the day you were born. She saw it in the stars, in the dreams. She made a pact to protect you, to prepare you." "A pact?" Daniel's stomach churned. "With who? What are you talking about?" Evelyn rose, moving with an unnatural grace, the candle light flickering as if in response. "The ones who watch," she said. "They've always been here in the house, in the land. Your mother offered them a vessel, you. The tapes were her way of proving your worth, documenting your life for them." Daniel's mind reeled. The journal's cryptic references, the symbol in the attic, it was starting to make a sickening kind of sense. "You're insane," he said, stepping back. "This is some kind of delusion. My mother was sick, and you're continuing her madness." Evelyn tilted her head, her eyes glinting. "Madness? No, Daniel. Power, purpose. They've been waiting for you to come home, to step into the circle." She gestured toward the attic. "The symbol is ready. It's time." A chill ran through him. The spiral in the attic, the one his mother had stood over in the old film, it wasn't just a symbol. It was a doorway, a ritual. He remembered the journal's words. He must never know who watches. Were they real, or was this all a twisted fantasy Evelyn had inherited from his mother? Before he could respond, a low hum filled the room, vibrating in his bones. The candle flame flared, casting wild shadows that seemed to writhe on the walls. Evelyn's smile widened. "They're here," she whispered. Daniel's instincts screamed to run, but the hum grew louder, rooting him to the spot. The air shimmered, and for a moment he thought he saw shapes, tall, indistinct figures at the edges of the room. His mother's voice echoed in his memory. Destiny? Was this what she meant? Was he meant to face whatever this was, or fight it? He had seconds to decide. The screwdriver felt useless against whatever was happening, but the attic held more answers, the journal, the tapes, the symbol. He could run back upstairs, try to understand the ritual, or confront Evelyn now and demand the full truth. Risking whatever force, she seemed to command. Daniel's heart pounded as the hum in the kitchen grew deafening. A low, otherworldly pulse that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. The flickering candlelight cast Evelyn's face in sharp relief, her unnatural smile and glinting eyes locking onto him. The shadowy figures at the room's edges pulsed in and out of focus, their forms indistinct but undeniably present. Every instinct screamed for him to flee, but the weight of his mother's journal, the tapes, and the spiraling symbol in the attic anchored him. Running wouldn't answer the question burning in his mind. What was he to these watchers? He tightened his grip on the screwdriver, his resolve hardening. He needed the truth, even if it cost him. "Evelyn," he said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him, "tell me everything. No riddles. Who are they? What did my mother do?" Evelyn's smile faltered, as if his defiance surprised her. The hum softened, and the shadowy figures seemed to recede slightly, waiting. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Your mother made a bargain, Daniel. Decades ago, when she was young and desperate, she called to them, the Watchers. Entities older than this house, older than time. They promised her a child who would bridge their world and ours, a vessel for their return. In exchange, she gave them you. Daniel's stomach twisted. Me, why me? You were born under their sign, Evelyn said, pointing upward as if the stars themselves were watching. The tapes, the symbol, they were her offerings, proof of your life, your growth. She believed you'd embrace your role, become their herald. When she grew too weak, I continued her work. The final tape, it was my offering to show them you're ready. Ready for what? Daniel snapped, his fear giving way to anger. To be some pawn in a cult ritual? This is insanity. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Not insanity, destiny. Step into the circle upstairs and you'll see. They'll show you everything, power, knowledge, eternity. The hum surged again, and the shadows thickened, their forms now vaguely humanoid, with long, spindly limbs and eyes that glowed faintly. Daniel's skin prickled. He didn't know if they were real or hallucinations born of fear, but he knew he couldn't trust Evelyn. His mother's love had been real, but twisted by something dark. He had to end this. I'm not your vessel, he said, backing toward the hallway. Whatever my mother started, it stops now. Evelyn lunged, faster than he expected, grabbing his wrist. Her grip was cold, impossibly strong. You can't refuse them, she hissed. The shadows closed in, the hum now a roar in his ears. Panic surged, and Daniel swung the screwdriver, catching Evelyn's arm. She gasped, releasing him, and he bolted for the stairs. He stumbled into the attic, slamming the door behind him. The symbol on the floor glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the hum that now shook the house. The journal lay open nearby, its pages fluttering as if caught in a breeze. He grabbed it, scanning for anything that could undo this nightmare. A scrawled note caught his eye. To break the pact, destroy the offering. Fire cleanses all. The tapes. They were the offering, the link to the Watchers. Daniel grabbed the stack of VHS tapes and cassettes, his hands shaking as he piled them onto the symbol. Footsteps thundered up the stairs, Evelyn or something worse. He had no time. He pulled a lighter from his pocket, a habit from his smoking days, and flicked it on. The flame caught the edge of a tape, and fire spread quickly, the plastic melting and acrid smoke filling the air. The door burst open. Evelyn stood there, her eyes wild, the shadows swirling behind her like a storm. No, she screamed, rushing forward. But the hum faltered and the shadows flickered, their forms unraveling as the tapes burned. Daniel backed away, the heat stinging his eyes. Evelyn fell to her knees, clawing at the flames, but the symbol's glow dimmed and the air grew still. As the last tape crumbled to ash, the hum stopped. The shadows vanished. Evelyn collapsed, sobbing, her strength gone. Daniel stood panting, the attic now silent except for the crackle of dying flames. The symbol was just a charred mark on the floor, its power broken. He called the police, who found Evelyn incoherent, muttering about the Watchers. They took her away, and the farmhouse was sealed off. Daniel never returned. He sold the property and moved far away, but the journal stayed with him, a reminder of his mother's love and her descent into madness. Sometimes at night he'd wake, certain he heard a faint hum, but it was always just the wind. Or so he told himself. The Watchers, if they were real, were gone. But Daniel never slept soundly again, always wondering if something still watched from the shadows, waiting for another chance. The end.